What's up, guys and gals? Welcome back to Surviving Bedrock. We have had a lot of stuff going on in the last couple of streams. If you're not catching the live streams, I strongly suggest you do it. Of course, we got our music disc when we did the spawner farm. We got our parrots moved over here and they're dancing away. We did a stream where we collected all of the wolf varieties. So we have every one of the 9 wolves now. And we also collected some armadillos in the process. These guys are absolutely adorable. I love them. When you come sprinting up to them, they jump in their shells and hide, and the animation when they pop their heads out is just adorable. So we've got these guys here. They're dropping me scoots every once in a while like this, so I can eventually make some wolf armor. We got some plans up there for the wolves. We're going to make them like little dog houses, and we will make sure to armor them up once we get that going over there. But I thought we'd start off today's episode jamming out to a little other side, getting our parrots to dance here. It's quite loud though. We're going to back away a little bit. But today's episode, we are going to work on our enchanting setup that we built in the skeleton spawner room. We need to get some of our gear enchanted, and we need to grab some materials for that. So let's come back over here. Let's put our scoot away. We are going to grab our diamond shovel and our diamond pickaxe. We've got some fresh iron tools here, and we have our iron armor, which has taken a little bit of a beating. We also had a live stream yesterday from the time of recording where we were working on some stuff at the tree farm, and we're working on a little house build over there for storage for the wood. And that's going to be a project we're going to continue doing on the streams. So I try to do stuff in the live streams that really aren't pertaining towards episode type content. But we are going to figure out where I left my boat. We're going to head over to the skeleton spawner room, and we're going to go start talking about enchanting. We're going to roll the intro, and I'll see you guys over there. So we are back over at the skeleton farm, and we could just start, going right at the enchantment table, but we need to do a little bit of explanation first, because if you've never enchanted stuff before, you might not really understand the concept or the process. So we've actually done up something. We have got a mock-up in the creative copy of my world here that we're going to start going over the different enchantments and showing off some things for you guys. This will be more like an informational guide episode. But let's jump over there, and we're going to start going through some of the basics of enchantment, explain different enchantments on different pieces of armor, and give you guys the lowdown. And just like that, we are in our creative copy, and we've made up this little room here to kind of explain the enchantments on all the different pieces of armor, just to kind of give you guys a bit of information on all the different gear that can get enchanted, what enchantments they can all take, what methods you can use to enchant them, and everything like that. So we're actually going to start here with the armor, and we're going to start with the chest plate first. I know I put the helmet first, mainly because I put them in order of the slots there, but the chest plate is going to be the easiest thing to start with because it has the least amount of enchantments on it out of all the armor pieces. Not including the elytra, but we'll get to that later. So this is how I've laid everything out here, and this is what we're going to go over. We're going to go over enchantments that are mutually exclusive, which means that the armor, tool, or weapon can only have one of those type of enchantments on it at a time. So once it has that enchantment, it can't have another of that same type. So for all the armor pieces, protection, fire protection, blast protection, and projectile protection, those are all mutually exclusive. So that means if your armor has protection on it, you can't also put fire protection on it, or blast, or projectile protection. So that's what mutually exclusive means, and all 4 of the armor pieces are going to have this mutually exclusiveness. Another enchantment that chest plates can have is Unbreaking 3. Just about every item in the game that can be enchanted can have Unbreaking 3. And Thorns is another enchantment that all armor can have on it. And then we have what is called treasure enchantments. Treasure enchantments are enchantments that cannot be gotten at the enchanting table, or enchantment table, sorry. And if you get them from a villager, they are going to cost double what they normally cost. And I'll explain that a little bit later. But Mending is one of 2 treasure enchantments in the game. And pretty much any item that can be enchanted with Mending. Mending and Unbreaking are like the universal enchantments that can go on almost, or I think they can go on every single piece of... yeah, they can go on every single thing that can be enchanted. So next we'll move on to pants. And pants are going to be the same as armor. You have the same 4 mutually exclusive enchantments. And one thing I didn't explain as well is enchantments have different levels. So all of the protection enchantments can have level 1 through level 4. Each level of the enchantment gives it a better protection value. So obviously a protection 4 book would protect you more than a protection 1 book on your piece of armor. Again, you can have Unbreaking 3, you can have Thorns, you can have Treasure Enchantment Mending, and now there is an exclusive enchantment for pants, and these are what I labeled as special enchantments. Swift Sneak, 1, 2, or 3. And this cannot be gotten at an enchantment table. It cannot be gotten from a villager. It can only be found in ancient cities. So that is definitely more of a late game enchantment. And that enchantment can only go on pants. And one thing I forgot to explain here as well is I kind of did a mock-up of what I consider to be the ideal enchantments you want to get on your piece of equipment. So the way I labeled this one out is you pretty much for a chestplate want Protection 4, Unbreaking 3, and Mending. You can put Thorns on your gear, and Thorns deals damage back to monsters like the name suggests. But the downside of Thorns is when it deals damage back to enemies, it takes extra durability damage on your pieces of equipment. If that's not a big deal for you, then Thorns is a good item that you could put on your equipment. I tend to not try to get it on my equipment, but if it comes with it, so be it. Now, an option is Fire Protection, and we'll talk about that in a little bit once we finish going over all 4 pieces of armor. But we will take that out as well. And we will grab, same with the leggings, the ideal enchantments would be Protection 4, Unbreaking 3, and Mending. And I also have a Fire Protection variant. Now, when we start, let's go back to the helmet now, because now we start adding extra enchantments that aren't on these 2 pieces of equipment. So we got the same mutually exclusive enchantments. We've got Respiration 3, which is an enchantment on helmets that allows you to breathe underwater, or more or less not breathe underwater, hold your breath longer underwater. Each level of respiration, I think, adds 15 more seconds to the amount of time you can breathe underwater. Let me just verify that really quick. Yes, I was correct. It is 15 seconds added for each level. So with a Respiration 3 on your helmet, you can stay underwater for a full, is it a minute? I think you get 15 seconds by default. And yeah, that would be a minute of underwater time with the Respiration 3. Another enchantment that is exclusive to helmets is Aqua Affinity. This one is only in level 1, and it just allows you to mine blocks faster while underwater. Pretty straightforward. We've got our typical Unbreaking 3, we've got our typical Thorns, and we've got our typical Treasure Enchantment of Mending. So this is a mock-up of what would be an ideal helmet. Protection 4, Aqua Affinity, Respiration 3, Unbreaking 3, and Mending. We will take that out as well. And now we move on to the boots. The boots also have some special enchantments. We've got the same mutually exclusive protection enchantments. We've got the same Thorns. We've got the same Unbreaking. We've got Feather Falling, which is a make or break enchantment. It is probably one of the most important enchantments you have on your boots. It decreases the amount of damage you take when falling. And Feather Falling 4, you can fall over 100 blocks without biting the bullet. So Feather Falling, very important on boots. And then we have a Treasure Enchantment of Mending, of course. We have another treasure enchantment that can only be on boots, and that is Frostwalker 2. Now, again, treasure enchantments are enchantments that cannot be enchanted at the enchantment table. They can only be either fished or... I shouldn't say only, because you can get them from like loot drops from different structures in the game. And you can find them in chests and stuff like that. But you can't get them from the enchantment table. You can buy them from villagers, or you can get them as loot or fishing. Frostwalker has 2 levels, and Frostwalker, what that does is if you're walking on any water sources, you will turn it into ice temporarily. Pretty useful enchantment for crossing bodies of water, and also it negates taking any fire damage when standing on magma blocks, which can be very helpful in certain situations as well. Now, here is another mutually exclusive Depth Strider 3 and Frostwalker. Depth Strider 3 allows you to move in water faster, so you could swim faster. You don't take forever trying to fight against water currents. Depth Strider allows you to move more naturally in water, and each level lets you move faster, up to a level of 3. So these 2 enchantments cannot be on the same pair of boots. Clearly, because one requires you to be under the water, and one never lets you go under the water. So that's why those 2 enchantments are mutually exclusive. And then we have another special enchantment. This one is Soul Speed. This is only found from either loot in bastions or bartering with piglins, both in the nether. And that's the only way to get that. You can't get that in loot anywhere else in the game. You can't get that from the enchantment table. You cannot get that from villager trades. And what Soul Speed allows you to do is move faster when you are on blocks of soul sand or soul soil, which we haven't been to the nether yet. We haven't touched on that yet, but we will touch on that very soon. and you move faster on those blocks at the expense of taking durability loss on your boots. It is the one downside to that enchantment, but without it, you actually move slower on soul sand. So that is a very useful enchantment to have. So here is our ideal setup for a pair of iron boots: protection 4, depth strider 3, feather falling 4, unbreaking 3, and mending. Now I didn't put like the special enchantments on these because like this, I didn't put the swift sneak, I didn't put the soul speed, because typically you're not going to have those early game. So now, when you would have all 4 of these pieces of equipment on, you would take far less damage from mob attacks. And let's kind of demonstrate that really quick. So over here, we've got some zombie companions for another test later on, but we're going to show you how much damage we're going to take. Oh, the guy can't hit me. Hold on. All right, let's see if this guy can hit me. Can you hit me, buddy?
Come on, stop trying to hit me and hit me!
Oh, what is happening here? Why can't these guys hit me?
One eternity later.
All right, we're going to jump in with the zombie, because that's the only way this seems to work. So with each hit, we're only taking a half a heart with full protection 4 iron armor. Not too bad. It's taking a little bit of damage. Right, let's see if we can get out of here and heal up a little bit. And we will take off the armor to show you guys just about how much damage this guy really does. All right, we gave ourselves some regeneration because this guy's going to whack us pretty good. See there? We took 2 hearts of damage. Yep, he hits pretty hard without armor on. And then one other thing we're going to show off here is we're going to show off the strength of fire protection armor. Now, blast protection and projectile protection, not quite as useful. Very niche circumstances. Let's give ourselves some regeneration really quick. We're going to take a quick lava bath. We're going to show you guys how much damage that deals. That is fast with no armor. Let's wait till we stop burning here. Let's re-up our regeneration. We're going to put on the same protection 4 armor again. And we are going to show you guys how decreased the damage is. And then we're going to show the same with 2 fire protection pieces on. Now we're taking a half a heart, almost a half a heart every tick. And we are still set on fire when we leave the lava. And we're still going to take those fire ticks. Let's regen again. Now let's put on 1 piece of fire protection. And we'll see what the difference is. I'll wait for the regen to wear off there. Now we're taking multiple ticks before we start taking damage. And look how much less time we spend on fire once we leave the lava. Now we're going to do the same thing with 2 pieces of fire protection on. And I'm not even going to give myself the regeneration effect. We can stand here for quite some time. And when we leave the lava, we have no burning effect. So with 2 pieces of fire protection and 2 pieces of regular protection, you are immune to burning effects when you are not directly standing in the fire source. So if you're going to be dealing with anything that involves fire, like the Nether, having at least 1 piece of fire protection on, if not 2, is extremely useful. Let's put these guys back and we'll go over to the tools and weapons. So we'll start over here with the sword, because it is one of the more complex weapons and tools. The sword can have a ton of enchantments on it. So we've got mutually exclusive enchantments that are applied to the sword and the axe, and those 3 enchantments are Sharpness, Smite, and Bane of Arthropods. Sharpness adds basic damage to your sword for each level. I think it adds 1.25 damage for each level of sharpness on your sword, which is actually higher than Java. Java starts with a 1+ modifier at sharpness 1 and only adds a 0.5 damage each level, whereas Bedrock adds a 1.25 for each level, so it adds almost double the amount of damage. Smite adds extra bonus damage to undead mobs, and it adds more damage than Sharpness does, but it only adds the damage to undead mobs, so skeletons, zombies, those likes. Bane of Arthropods does the same thing, but with spiders. Generally, you don't want a Bane of Arthropods weapon unless you're farming specifically spiders. Other enchantments, Unbreaking, of course. Fire Aspect is an enchantment on swords that adds flaming attacks to your sword. You strike a mob and it sets them on fire. There are 2 levels to that. We've got Knockback, which is another enchantment exclusive to the sword. Well, technically the bow too, but we'll get into that later. But Knockback has 2 levels, just like Fire Aspect does, and it knocks an enemy back when you strike them. Pretty self-explanatory. Looting 3 is an amazing enchantment on swords. Each level of looting increases the chance of getting drops from mobs or getting more drops from mobs. And there's loot tables out there that show increased chances depending on the mob and what the item that they drop is. But generally, If you hit a mob with looting 3, you get more basic drops from them and a better chance for them to drop items like armor and weapons that they may be holding. And then Mending, of course, is our treasure enchantment. So this is a mock-up of a general good sword to have with sharpness, looting, fire aspect, unbreaking, knockback, and mending. 6 enchantments on that. Same with the boots, a lot of enchantments that can go on there. Now our axe is going to have a little less, but our axe kind of doubles as a tool and a weapon. It can have the same mutually exclusive enchantments of sharpness, spite, and bane of arthropods. It has 2 other mutually exclusive enchantments that apply to all the other tools as well, and that is either Silk Touch or Fortune. Fortune increases your drops for stuff like crops as well as ore in the game. So any ore block you'd be mining up in the game, diamond, emerald, iron, copper, coal, Fortune will give you more of those drops. There's a few other niche things it works on in the game. We'll get to those as we come across them in the game. And then the other mutually exclusive version of that is Silk Touch, and that allows you to, as it says, Silk Touch whatever you're picking up. So you can pick glass back up that if you broke it without Silk Touch, it would just shatter and you wouldn't get it. You can mine the stone right behind us, and you can get the stone instead of it breaking into cobblestone. There's a lot of good uses for Silk Touch. And we've got our regular Unbreaking 3. Now here's a new enchantment that applies to all the tool-based weapons. It is Efficiency. Efficiency comes in 5 levels, and each level of efficiency increases the mining speed of the item you're mining. Very useful enchantment. And then we have our Mending, of course. So I've got 2 mock-ups of iron axes that are your ideal ones. One has Fortune, one has Silk Touch. Moving on, we have pickaxes and shovels and hoes, which are all 3 going to be exactly the same with the enchantments. So we don't need to look at all 3 of them here, but we've got the 2 mutually exclusives, Fortune and Silk Touch. Typically, you'll want a pickaxe with one of each of those. So a Fortune and a Silk Touch pickaxe. And then you have your Efficiency, your Unbreaking, and your Mending. That is it for pickaxes. That is it for shovels. And that is it for hoes. So all 3 of those are the same. Pretty straightforward and standard. So let's move over here. We've got shields, which can only take Unbreaking and Mending, and you cannot use the enchantment table on a shield. So everything else we've talked about so far, you can enchant with the enchantment table. Shields, you can only apply books with an anvil, and there's a few other items like that as well. Let's cover all the other items that can go through the enchantment table first, and then all of these ones up here are items that can't go through the enchantment table. So we've got Tridents. Tridents have some mutually exclusive enchantments as well. We've got Loyalty and Channeling can both go on the same Trident, but Riptide cannot go on a Trident that has either one of these 2 enchantments. So it's a slightly different mutually exclusive. Now what Riptide does is it allows you to propel yourself through water when trying to throw the Trident. So instead of the Trident leaving your hand, you get fired off with the Trident. So it's a quick way to go through water or to shoot yourself out of water up into the air. Now the converse is Loyalty is an enchantment that when you throw the Trident, it'll come back to you. And each level of Loyalty will increase the speed at which the Trident returns to you. So it's like a boomerang. And then Channeling is an enchantment that when it is thunderstorming out, if you throw a Channeling Trident, lightning will strike. So it's useful for hitting mobs with lightning, turning creepers into charged creepers, and generally stuff like that. Now we've also got our typical Unbreaking, we've got our typical Mending, and one other enchantment that's exclusive to the Trident is Impaling. Now, just like Sharpness, Smite, and Bane of Arthropods, it has 5 levels, and each level of Impaling increases the amount of damage that the Trident deals to mobs in water. Now, this is a difference between Bedrock and Java. In Java, Impaling only works on what the game considers aquatic mobs, whereas in Bedrock, Impaling increases the damage on any mob that is in water. So it's very useful in things like Trident killers. If you have water in the bottom, you throw Impaling Tridents in there and it'll deal more damage to the mobs in there. So we've got 2 different mock-ups of ideal Trident setups. One with the Loyalty and the Channeling, and we can go show this off as well. And we have one with Riptide. So we'll start off by showing off the Riptide Trident. When you have Riptide, you will launch yourself into the air when you throw the Trident. So you can launch yourself out of water, like that, and you can combine that with the Elytra that will allow you to actually take off and fly. And the other way you can use it is in the water, and you can attack mobs like that. And with Impaling 5, you see we just one-hit that round. We get down in the water and we could propel ourselves into mobs and take them out, like that. The longer you hold it, the further you go. And now the other one is the Channeling and Loyalty. Now Loyalty, we throw it, and it will come back to us. Like that. Very useful for attacking mobs in the water. The shorter distance you throw it, the quicker it is to come back. The longer it goes, the longer it takes to come back. And then you increase that duration with the Loyalty 1, 2, or 3 enchantment. Now, one other thing we can show off, let's change the weather to a thunderstorm. So we have a thunderstorm right now, and if we throw this at Trident, let's hit that pig. Lightning, and we turned him into a zombie piglin. And then we killed him. So that is the plus side to having a Channeling Trident. And a fun fact, if you want to get charged creepers, do not put Impaling on your Channeling Trident, because you will one-hit the creeper, because the creeper is in the rain, which means it takes extra damage from the Impaling enchantment. So yeah, that's how that works. So we'll put our tridents back, and we will talk about the next piece of equipment. We're going to talk about the fishing rod first, because this one's pretty basic. Fishing rod can have 4 different enchantments. We have our typical Unbreaking and our Mending. You have 2 enchantments that are exclusive to a fishing rod, Lure and Luck of the Sea. Luck of the Sea and Lure both have level 3 enchantments, and Luck of the Sea increases your chance of treasure drops when fishing, and Lure speeds up the time it takes to get a bite. Basically, pretty self-explanatory. This can be done in an enchantment table. So just wanted to touch on that one really quick. Bows. Bows are pretty versatile. We've got, let's start at the top here. Unbreaking, of course. We've got Flame, which is the equivalent of the fire aspect on the sword, but it only has a level 1 versus a level 2, so it doesn't set mobs on fire for as long. But it's basically equivalent to a fire aspect 1 on a sword. Punch is the other one that is equivalent to knockback 2 on a sword, but on a bow it's called Punch. So you typically want this on a bow enchantment. You don't always want knockback on a sword, but having Punch on a bow is very useful, because most of the time when you're shooting mobs with a bow, you want them to stay at a distance. Now, this is Power 5, which is the equivalent of Sharpness, Smite, Bane of Arthropods, and Impaling, but for bows. Power 5, as all the other enchantments are, increases the amount of damage the bow deals from enchantment level 1 up to an enchantment level of 5. And now we have 2 mutually exclusive enchantments. We have, of course, Mending, which is the same mutually exclusive, the same treasure enchantment as all the other items, but for bows, it is mutually exclusive with Infinity. Now the difference, we'll grab these out and we'll show these off as well, and we will grab these arrows. With an Infinity bow, you don't use any arrows. You can keep firing. You don't use any arrows, but your durability goes down, and you cannot heal it up with experience like you can with Mending. Mending, you use arrows every time you fire them. You can always go recollect those arrows if they don't hit something. But that is the differences. Mending, again, you can heal that. I don't think I touched base on that, what Mending actually does. Mending allows you to heal your items with experience gained from mobs or other sources in the game. So instead of experience going to your experience bar down there, it will go to healing your tools, weapons, or armor. So that is the usefulness of Mending. Each bow has their own use case scenario. If you are in a situation where you have tons of arrows, like with the skeleton spawner, and we have plenty of time to go and refill arrows, and we're not worried about running out, Mending bows are pretty useful. If you're in a situation like you're in the Nether, or you're mining for netherite in the Nether with TNT, and you're using the fire on the bow to set it off, I know this is stuff that's way further on in the guide, but you can use Infinity and not have to worry about running out of arrows. So I recommend using Infinity in situations where refilling your arrows is not ideal, and using Mending in other situations where you have ample arrows, and replenishing your arrow supply is pretty easy. So next we've got the crossbow, the red-headed stepchild of the projectile family. Most people don't use crossbows, but there are some niche situations that we will show off. So where to start with crossbows? Let's start with the mutually exclusives. So we have multi-shot and piercing. Multi-shot allows you to shoot 3 arrows with only using 1 arrow out of a crossbow. Piercing is an enchantment that allows your arrows to pass through a mob and hit another mob, and each level of piercing increases the amount of mobs that it can go through. So with piercing 1, your arrow will go through 1 mob and it'll stop at the second one. With piercing 4, your arrow will go through 4 mobs. We have an enchantment for crossbows, which is quick charge, and that is the amount of time that it takes to draw your string back on your crossbow. Quick charge goes up to level 3. We have our typical Unbreaking, and we have our typical Mending. So we'll grab these out and we'll show these off. We've got a little setup for that. And that is why we've got these guys over here. Well, first we'll show off the multi-shot. Let's go out here. You guys can kind of see it better. As you can see, it shoots 3 arrows. Now you can go pick up your 1 arrow. That all 3 arrows are not physical arrows that you can go pick back up if you don't hit the mob. Now it's useful for spray, but it's not as useful as you think it is. Typically, if you have that many mobs in front of you, you're in trouble as it is. But what I recommend is the piercing enchantment, and we are going to show this off with this guy right here. We're just going to do this in creative because you guys will see the effect of this. We're going to take the regular arrows out of our inventory, and this is one of the benefits of piercing, is using tipped arrows. Now first off, quick charge 3, it draws the bow back really quick. And we're using harming arrows because it'll actually heal these zombies so that we don't kill them, just for our test purposes. Now we shoot 1 arrow. It passed through all 4 of these guys, as you can see from the damage. Maybe I missed that guy or he already had damage. Let's try again. And you can see it goes through. Oh, it healed. See, I'm using the healing arrows, so it's... Trust me when I say it is hitting all 4 of these guys. It's kind of hard to see. Let's see if we can get into, like... no, I can't really get into another view. Just trust me when I say it, it is going through all 4 of these guys. And then one thing we can actually show off here... Oh, one of my arrows actually hit the wall there. Let's do this again. There we go. That's what I was trying to show off. Now with Piercing 4, it'll go through all 4 mobs if you manage to fire it straight, like I wasn't there for a little while. And it'll actually stick in the back of a block. So if you are hitting less than 4 mobs, you can actually go and pick your tipped arrows back up with Piercing. Just to show that off, let me go back into survival. Let's give ourselves a few more arrows so that I can actually show this off working. Alright, all 4 mobs, and we can go back over here and pick the arrow back up, as you can see. So it's useful for tipped arrows because you can get the arrows back. So you can combine that with harming arrows, or for zombies you could be using healing arrows, which would deal more damage to undead mobs. You could use arrows of decay. You could use poison arrows, which unfortunately do not work on undead mobs. But there are some niche situations that tipped arrows can be useful. Especially for the fact that you can pick them back up if they pierce less than 5 mobs. If you were to shoot a 5th mob, the arrow would stop at that 5th mob. But very useful. Moving on. Now we've got 6 more items in the game that can be enchanted, and these are all items that, like the shield, cannot be run through the enchantment table. They can only be enchanted with books on an anvil. We have Elytra, which can have Unbreaking and Mending. We have Flint and Steel, which the same, Unbreaking and Mending. We have the Brush, which is the same, Unbreaking and Mending. Brush is a new item that came in with the archaeology. You can brush suspicious sand and gravel. And you can also get scoots from armadillos now with the Brush. So actually very useful to put Unbreaking and maybe even Mending on a brush, because they take a lot of durability loss when brushing an armadillo. I think you break an unenchanted brush in 5 brushes on an armadillo. And we never really covered what Unbreaking actually does. Unbreaking gives your item a chance to not lose durability when it is used, or you strike an enemy with it, or you take damage with armor. As you could see when we were firing the bows, we'll show that off again really quick. Every shot does not use durability. Unbreaking 3 gives you the greatest chance to not lose durability with your bow. Or any item. So that is Unbreaking. Shears can have Mending, Unbreaking, and Efficiency 5. Shears are useful for getting leaves off of trees, or they are also useful for picking up wool, as shears are the fastest item for picking up wool. We've got 2 more items here. Now this is an item that we will not find until we go to the Nether. This is Warped Fungus on a stick. Unbreaking and Mending. This is useful for striders. We will cover that at a later time. This is another fun item. Parrot on a stick. And in order to show this off properly, we need a couple things. We are going to actually get ourselves an unenchanted one. So we have our enchanted one, which can have Unbreaking and Mending, just to show that off. But we are going to show off, this is going to be kind of fun. We have got a pig over here. You guys may have seen this earlier and wondered why in the world I have a pig tied up over here. We are going to grab the saddle. We are going to put saddle on pig. We are going to unlead pig. And we are going to ride pig. Now you can't control the pig unless you have a carrot on a stick. the pig will follow the carrot on a stick. And if you right-click and use the carrot on a stick, the pig sprints, and he makes a fun noise. And it uses 2 durability of the carrot on a stick. Now, carrot on a stick is crafted with just a fishing rod and a carrot. Pretty simple. But I want to show off what happens, and I don't know if this has always been the case. I want to show off what happens when you use up all of the durability. And also, other pigs around you will be attracted to the carrot on a stick as well. But we are just about out of durability here. All right, we have one more use because we are at 0. And it breaks. And that means the pig ate the carrot. But here's a little life hack. You get a full fishing rod back, and you can just craft another one. So basically, as long as you have carrots in your inventory, you have infinite carrots on a stick. I don't know if it's always done that, but I found that hilarious that you get the carrot, or you get the fishing rod back after the carrot on a stick uses all its durability. And unfortunately, you cannot get your saddle back from your pig unless the pig meets his demise. So once you put a saddle on a pig, that's about it. But yeah, carrot on a stick. Actually pretty useful if you want to meme it up and ride around with your pig. And we will go into survival, as we're going to start trying to enchant our items. And we will explain a couple more niche cases with the enchantment table. So we will go back to the server and start trying to enchant our stuff. Okay, so now that we are back in the real world, aka the server, we are going to start trying to enchant our gear, and this is the method I like to do. I want to pop each item in and see what it's giving us. So I know we haven't covered all this too much, so let's go over the basics of enchanting. We already covered that you need 15 bookshelves minimum around the enchantment table. It doesn't matter what orientation they're in, as long as the bookshelves have a 1 air block in between. They can be 1 or 2 blocks high. You could have 15 bookshelves in a circle all the way around the enchantment table with 1 opening on the outside. It'll still give you the same enchantment level that having the 15 bookshelves that I have in this orientation being too high. Now remember, there are 2 bookshelves in the corner there that you can't see. That's why we have 8 and then we have 7. I've got my spawner on over there because we're going to run over there and collect experience every once in a while. I'm trying to stay over here in the corner so that it's not constantly spawning. Because we got 45 levels, we don't need the experience yet. But as we start enchanting, we will need more. So when you pop an item in the enchantment table, you get 3 options here. You've got a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3. And this shows the enchantment weight or level. And this is where having the 15 bookshelves in place comes in play. Because when you get the 15 bookshelves, you can get the maximum enchantment level of 30. Now, all this means for you is if you wanted to enchant this option, it would take you 1 lapis and 1 level, 2 lapis and 2 level, 3 lapis and 3 levels. And what it shows in the enchantment table here is what you are guaranteed to get. There are chances that you can get multiple enchantments, especially at the level 3. Not as often at the level 1 or level 2, but it is possible. But you most of the time will get multiple enchantments at level 3, but not always. So what we're going to do is we're going to plop each item in and we're going to see what the options are. And Bane of Arthropods 4, we definitely don't want that. We're mainly looking at the level 3, because that's going to give us the best chance to get multiple enchantments. Looks like unbreaking on the shovel. Still unbreaking on the pickaxe, just like on the diamond or the iron one. So let's check our armor. We're getting fire protection 4. We are getting protection 4, so we're probably going to take that one. Let's see what else we're getting. Perfection 4 on the pants. So right now I'm leaning towards the chest plate or the pants. We definitely don't want projectile protection. I personally believe that's like the worst enchantment, unless you're like specifically fighting skeletons. We also have a bow that we can try to enchant. We have Unbreaking 3 as an option. And then one other option that people tend to forget about is books. You can enchant books. That's why we brought some books with us. And so if we have no good options on anything else, I might just throw a book in there to try to get an enchantment. And what if you don't like any of the options at all? What if every single option you have here is complete garbage, including the book, and you don't even want to take the chance of wasting the 3 levels and the 3 lapis? Well, you could just take a level 1. You could we basically call that a throwaway enchant. And as soon as you enchant any one item, it'll re-roll the chance for everything that you throw in the enchantment table. So if every single item you have is like, these are all garbage, just throw anything in there, roll for a level 1, and it'll re-roll everything. So what we're going to do, we're going to do the chest plate. Then we're going to throw our lapis in here. And we're going to take this protection 4. We're going to hope we also get Unbreaking 3 with it. Let's see what happens. And we did. We got Unbreaking 3. So that's how this works. So now we can put that on. We've got a protection 4, Unbreaking 3 chest plate, which is the best we can get. minus Mending, which we cannot get from the enchantment table. So we're just going to kind of go through and we're going to see what all of our items are again. Ooh, Fortune 3 is one we definitely want, and we're getting that on the diamond as well. That is probably going to be our pick. We're going to check some of the other items. But ooh, Feather Falling 4 though. You know what? We're still going to take the Fortune 3 because that is a pretty important one. We're not even going to check everything else. And we're going to hope we get something else like Efficiency and Unbreaking with that. And we did. All right. This brings me up to my next point. We got the best pickaxe that we could have enchanted from the table. And I'll explain why. The enchantment table cannot enchant above certain enchantment levels on enchantments. So Efficiency 4 is the highest efficiency you can get from an enchantment table. Even though there is an Efficiency 5, it weighs too much for the enchantment table to be able to give you. And enchantment weights is just fancy terms for, I don't even fully understand it, honestly. I'm sure somebody else that is probably slightly more technical than me would understand it, but you cannot get Efficiency 5 from the enchantment table. So the only option for you to get Efficiency 5 would either be from adding a book onto this item, or from combining items, or combining a book with Efficiency 4 to make it Efficiency 5. And I believe the only other enchantment that has the same rule at the table is Sharpness 5. You cannot get a Sharpness 5 from a book or a sword at the table. You can only get Sharpness 4. But you can get Smite 5, Impaling 5, and Bane of Arthropods 5. I'm not sure on Power 5. That also might be the same as Sharpness, but don't quote me on that. I cannot remember for sure. But now we've got those items enchanted. We're going to do this, and we're going to pop some more items in. So now, ideally, I wish we had another diamond pickaxe, but if we can get a silk touch on an iron, we might take it, just to have a backup silk touch tool. Sharpness 3. What was on our sword? Looting 2. See, that's not... I probably wouldn't take that because we want looting 3. Only having looting 2 is not great. We have Unbreaking 3 on the shovel. So now we're just kind of weighing the options and trying to see what is the best item we're going to get. See, like this one, I probably wouldn't want to take this one because it's only Protection 3 and we want Protection 4. If we could get Feather Falling again on the boots, we will definitely take those. Okay, so this is one of those times that I don't like any of the options. I will probably take the Unbreaking 3 on the shovel, though, and see what we get. But really, realistically, if this weren't here, I would have been like, I don't like any of the options, and we would have re-rolled. Let's see what we get with this. Now, we have plenty of levels and lapis to be able to play around, and we've got the farm running over there, so I'm not too worried about wasting levels. Okay, that's a decent shovel. That is actually very decent. We got Efficiency 3, which is, you know, it's not Efficiency 4, which would have been the highest we could have gotten. But for a shovel, that's not bad. That's still going to be plenty fast. Fortune 3 on the pickaxe. See, that's... We're not going to take that because we already have Fortune 3 on this one. Fortune on the axe, that's an interesting one. The axe, we really just need Efficiency and Unbreaking. We don't technically need Fortune or Silk Touch. Axe is a weird one because it operates as both a tool and a weapon. But fun fact about the axe is if you use it as a weapon, it takes 2 durability loss. Fire Protection 4. Depth Strider 3, that's an interesting one. We might take that. Protection 4. Now, we're going to probably take the pants. Ooh, and we have a Protection 4 book. We're going to take the pants, and we're going to hope we get Unbreaking. Alright, so here's an option that we did not get Unbreaking on this. So that's not ideal, but it's a good enchantment. So what we will probably do is hold on to that. We will see if we can't get Unbreaking in a book, or we might enchant a second pair of pants and try to get Unbreaking, and then we can combine them. That's kind of your play at the enchantment table, is getting the best you can, and then you can make, say I get a sword that it doesn't have all the enchantments I want. I can enchant a second sword, and then I can combine them in the anvil. We are basically just trying to find the best enchantments we can. See, I'm not liking any of these, really. We're going to take Unbreaking on the pickaxe, and we're going to see what else we get. See, that's not great. If that had had Silk Touch, that would have been really good for us. We're going to set that aside, because we still could have a chance of getting maybe Silk Touch on a book, which, for that, we may look at the lower levels, because Silk Touch is only a level 1. We could easily get that on a level 1 book. So we will keep an eye out for those. Sharpness 4 is good for a sword. Unbreaking on the bow. Aqua Affinity on the helmet. Protection 3. All right, we're going to take the Sharpness 4. We're going to see what else we get. Nothing. See, this is... I might just wash that and disenchant. Let's see our levels. All right, we have now fallen below 30 levels. So if we were to try to enchant something at level 3, we can't do it because we don't have the levels for it. This is where having your spawner running, or coming over here, and we are going to move our enchanted stuff up here. We are going to grab out all of the items that we have in these chests that have enchantments that are just garbage, and we are going to disenchant them at the grindstone. And I've got some stuff stored up here, but we are going to grab all of this stuff out. We are going to start disenchanting these to get experience. I also check like iron gear to see if it's useful at all, which this one's only protection 2, so it's not, because our pants already have protection 4. But there could be an opportunity where you had like protection 3, and then you had a protection 3 that you enchanted at the table. You could combine those to get protection 4. Now we're going to make sure to not disenchant our good items. We're just going to throw these things in here. That is a ridiculously good golden helmet, surprisingly. Sometimes you can get okay enchantments from mobs. You're just going to disenchant this stuff, get the experience for it. It's very minimal, but it does add up. And if you need experience, it's a good method to get some. See, look, we already got like a level and a half from that. Staying here is a little bit of experience in our spawner. Now we're going to toss out the leather gear because it does not do us any good, and I do not have a trash can over here for it yet. And then we will start throwing in all of our armor to get smelted down. Making sure not to mess with our good stuff. I may keep those pants just for the ability to enchant like Unbreaking 3 on them. Make sure we keep those. Throw the bows in there. That's useless to us. We're just going to throw that down there and let that despawn. Grab the bows for furnace fuel. And we had a few more bows up here that we can disenchant. I also want to look at the bows because there may be useful enchantments that possibly come off of them. This one's decent, Unbreaking 2 Power 2. We may be able to use that as a combination depending. We may leave that one aside for right now. And we go back to our grindstone and we're going to disenchant this stuff. Again, being very careful not to disenchant our good gear. We may actually, just to be on the safe side, put our good enchanted stuff away. Not want to accidentally mess any of that up. Other cap I need to get rid of here. Also, I like to try to keep like the stuff I'm working with in my hotbar so that I don't accidentally mess anything up as well. So we got a couple more bows to disenchant, and then we can throw all these in the furnace. It's a very manual process, but it's effective. So you just got to be very careful not to disenchant your good items. Because I've done it before. I think everyone has done it before eventually. And we're just going to evenly load these so that we can smelt stuff down later. And we're going to collect our experience here. We should hit level 30. There we go. So now we want this running constantly while we are working at the table, so that we'll constantly have a source of experience over here. Every time we drop below 30, we'll come back over here and we'll collect experience. So we're going to cut out here unless something really interesting happens, and we're going to start enchanting the rest of the gear, and we'll show you the end result, because this could take a little bit of time, and I don't want to have you guys just sitting here hanging out while I'm enchanting every single piece of gear we have. We are back, guys, and we have taken out so many skeletons. I forgot how slow spawner farms can be for experience, and we've been enchanting a lot. Let's show off what we've managed to pull. It's been multiple days of doing this because I haven't had a lot of time. But this is what we've managed to get. We got a very nice helmet with Respiration 3, Protection 4, Aqua Affinity, and Unbreaking 3. I believe I combined 2 helmets. Combined, whichever is the proper term. We put 2 helmets together to get these all in one. We did get our Protection 4 Unbreaking 3 chest plate. We were never able to get Unbreaking 3 on a pair of leggings, but we did get it on a book. So we will combine those, which we will show that off right now. And one thing is, which I didn't explain this earlier, but when you combined enchantments from a book, and if it has multiple enchantments, if any enchantments aren't, like, you can't put loyalty on pants, clearly. So any enchantments that aren't compatible just won't transfer over. And this is a good way if you're combining 2 pieces of armor, and say you've got, like, Protection 4, but then you have a bunch of say you had Unbreaking on another pair, but it had, like, a protection that you didn't want, like projectile protection. Whatever item is in the first slot will take precedent, so the Protection 4 here would overwrite a non-compatible protection enchantment. So just keep that in mind. But let's do that, and that's going to use a bunch of our levels. But now we've got Protection 4 Unbreaking 3 pants, and we have to do the same thing with the boots, because we've got a nice pair of Feather Falling 4, Unbreaking 3 boots, and we've got Protection 4, Protection 4, Feather Falling 4, Depthstrider 3, and Thorns 2, which, you know, that was a whatever enchantment, but we can combine these to get the Unbreaking off of that to get a superior pair of boots. Now, if you see here, that's costing a lot of experience, more than we even have. Sometimes you reverse the order. Look at that. I don't know why that is, but always check the order that you're combining multiple pieces of gear, because the enchantment cost will usually be different. And now we've got a superior pair of boots that are basically perfect. We went through a lot of lapis doing all this stuff. So let's show off what else we managed to get. We of course, you saw the diamond pickaxe that we enchanted. It took us quite a few tries to get this one, but we have an efficiency 4, unbreaking 3, silk touch iron pick. So that'll help us for silk touching any blocks that we need to pick up. We got unbreaking 3. You already saw this, the diamond shovel we got before. We ended up with this efficiency 4, unbreaking 3 axe. We got this decent bow with unbreaking 3, power 4, and punch 2. We've got a bunch of other bows here that are good potentials, like unbreaking 3, power 3. We have a plain power 4. We have an unbreaking 3, power 4. We have some flame bows with unbreaking that came from the skeletons. We got this one that also came from the skeletons. We can use a lot of these for combining and repairing later on. Like, I could take this power 4, punch 2, unbreaking 3 bow, and I can combine it with this power 4, or this power 4, unbreaking 3, and I can make a power 5 bow. I kept trying to get infinity at the table and just could not get the luck to give me infinity. But since I've had the spawner running for so long, we've got so many arrows, I think we'll be okay without infinity for a little while. We've also got tons of stockpiles of bows for either furnace fuel, or we can use that later on for making dispensers. This thing has been running constantly, giving us tons and tons of drops. One thing that we still need to combine here is our swords. We did manage to get a looting 3 sword pretty early on, which has actually been helping for the spawner, because if you hold a looting 3 sword, any kill that comes from the trident will apply the looting 3 effect. But we managed to get a sharpness 4, unbreaking 3 book. We kept that original sword. We kept that original sharpness 4 sword. So what we're going to do is we're going to combine all 3 of these swords together. This is going to give us... You know what we might actually do for the time being? This is what we're going to do. We're going to combine that with the looting one, and that'll cost us 12 experience. Let's see if it... Alright, it's the same either way. We're going to combine that, and that's going to give us a sharpness 4, unbreaking 3, looting 3 sword. We're going to save this sharpness 4 sword, and we'll save that for later on when this sword has lost a good amount of its durability and needs to be repaired. Because we can combine that in the anvil, and instead of wasting the experience and the levels on it now, which it would cost us, you know, only 2 levels, but we can use that as a free repair for that sword later on, and only costing us 2 levels, and we can get the max sharpness 5 on it. Kind of what I'm doing with the silk touch pick as well, because I did have this efficiency 4 and breaking 3 that I did not have silk touch on. I can wear this pickaxe down to almost broken, and then I can combine it with this pick later on to make it efficiency 5. So that's one thing to keep in mind with some of your maybe not optimal enchanted gear, is you can combine stuff later on if you don't have mending yet. And you can repair it and get the upgraded enchantments. So that's what we're going to do with some of those. We tried our hand at enchanting a hoe. I really wanted Fortune 3. We did not get it. And we've been here for long enough. I did not want to keep sitting here and keep grinding back up to level 30 to try to enchant again. So I figured this was a good ending point for this. But that kind of shows you guys the process for going from unenchanted gear, getting yourself an enchantment table, getting yourself bookshelves, and getting your first base set of enchantments with the enchantment table. So this is definitely a great start, since we don't have any villagers set up yet for trading with to get any enchanted books from them. We don't have mending yet, but this is where I usually like to start in all of my worlds. My first base set of enchantments I like to do with the enchantment table. And I realized after having to use this spawner farm for the experience source for this, while it has definitely served its purpose, we are going to need a much better experience source moving forward, because it's slow. It's very, very slow. So that'll probably be something we're going to work on in the very near future. But this episode has gone on way, way too long. I did not want this to go on for almost 50 minutes here, but there's just too much to explain when it comes to enchanting, and I didn't see a way to shorten it down very much. So I hope this episode was extremely informative for you guys. That was the intention. I wanted this to be more of a full guide episode. But this is where we're going to wrap it up. And I want to thank you guys for hanging out and checking out this episode. And my name is Aggro, and I gotta skate. Later.